Hi, Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine with episode 11, week 45, is it? It is, week 45 of Chart Watch and new release news. Looking at the UK album chart and picking out a couple of statistics which I think you might find interesting, and then delving into a little bit of news about the music industry. And in this one, I'll also be giving you a little bit of an overview of how the album chart is made up of sales, because recently I've been talking primarily about overall sales and CD sales, vinyl sales, cassette sales, downloads and streams. And I've had a couple of questions, people saying, well, how is streaming worked out as an album sale? So in this one, I'll just give you a quick overview of how that works. And the reason I'm doing that this week is because there is an anomaly in the number one of this week's album chart. We've got so used to me saying number one this week has got 30,000 sales, of which 27,000 have been physical sales made up of mainly CD, some vinyl and a sprinkling of cassettes. And that's been the same for every week that I've done this show. This week it is different because number one is Drake and 21 Savage with an album called Her Loss. And the week's sales are 36,194. And the reason why this is different, this is a rap artist and there are no physical sales at all with this. It is literally all downloads. Actually, it's not. It's 489 downloads, but the rest of it is 37,705 streams. No physical at all. Now, I imagine there was nothing physical released, but it shows that whether it's pop, soul, rock, heavy metal, physical makes up a huge chunk of the sales required to get into the album charts. But rap is out on its own on this. It's literally driven by streaming. At number two is Taylor Swift, who dropped down to number two. She's had 2 weeks at number one. And to be honest, her sales were 32,589. So she wasn't far off getting her third number one position. The only other things I wanted to mention from the charts before I move on really is who got to let's have a look. Number three was First Aid Kit, and there to get to number three was 9,772. And the other person I want to talk is Devin Townsend, who's got to number 50 in the charts, a Canadian rock star, as we all know, and he's got to 2,183 sales. But I bet that's primarily physical as it is, and the Prodigy are also back in the album charts as well with a re-release of The Fat of the Land. And I think that was that was 3,582 sales. So that's the kind of stats for the UK album charts. So how does a stream equate to a sale? Now, I mentioned recently how it works with charts. So it's charts with singles charts. So it's 100 to 1 in the case of premium streams. So 100 streams equals one sale to people who subscribe to Apple or Spotify, and 600 streams are required for someone who just listens to Spotify and doesn't mind the ads. So that's how it works out for singles. That's quite straightforward, isn't it? Albums isn't quite the same. Nothing like the same. And the reason it's not the same is because of what happened recently, where you ended up with Ed Sheeran having like the top 20 being all him, because it was all tracks being streamed from his albums. So they've had to change how that works. So how this works is the first two album tracks are kind of neutralized to the level of average of the next 10 most streamed tracks on the album. Do you get that? So the streams of the top 12 tracks, let's say an album has 12 tracks on it. Or let's not worry whether it's got less than that. So they're all aggregated together and converted using a ratio of 1,000 streams equals one album sale. So 1,000 streams equals one album sale. But let's say, for instance, the track 1 is streamed 50,000 times. Track 2 is streamed 75,000 times. And tracks 3 to 12 are streamed exactly 20,000 times. And maybe there's an extra track and it's streamed 5,000 times. So tracks 1 and 2 are normalized to 20,000, and that's the average of tracks 3 to 12. and the 12 most streamed tracks are then added together, equaling 240,000. The 1,000-to-1 ratio is applied, resulting in 240 chart-eligible sales. Clear as mud, but it does work. So I'll just, so that's how it works. In America, it's not the same. So it's not the same currency. In America, it is different. It is 1,250 premium audio streams equals an album sale, or 3,750 ad-supported streams equals one album sale, or 3,750 video streams are equal to one album unit. So that's different in America. Ours is more convoluted by the fact that you can see why they might do it, because the trouble is with streaming is you put an album on. You don't put an album on, do you? You click with your mouse or your finger, and you start playing an album, and you get to track 2, and you're distracted, and you go on to something else, and then you start to go onto that artist's page, and you start to notice a certain song is trending, and you play that first. So maybe that's why track 2 is streamed 75,000 times, because it suddenly starts to trend. It's not a single, it's an album track, but it starts to trend, and people tend to, the tracks further into the album get played the least. So that's why it's more complicated, because if someone only plays the first 3 tracks of an album, that's still technically being streamed, and it's still technically showing interest in the album. So how do you calculate that as an album sale? So you can see why they have to take the average of the tracks later on in the album, push down the tracks at the beginning, and then make an overall decision on how many of those streams equate to an album sale. Or you could just buy a CD, or buy an album, buy a vinyl album, even a cassette, and there it is. It's a unit sold, and more of it goes to the artist. Anyway, in a non-political outfit, no Loud Smelly magazine, we shall move on. So that's how it works. But as I say, support your bands and artists by buying a record, buy a CD. Enjoy it. Enjoy touching that music and being connected to it. And talking of physical music, what have we got to look forward to? Not so much on my list this week, but some interesting things. So here we go. Iggy Pop, Every Loser, new album out. Uriah Heep have a new album out. Yes! Uriah Heep's Purple Patch is just continues. Everything they release is just top notch. Mick and the boys, absolutely brilliant. I shall be first in the queue for that, and I shall be reviewing it. I'm also hoping to interview Mick Box as well. Peter Gabriel has a new album coming out, and that'll be great as well. So looking forward to that. Retro stuff. Trapeze, Don't Stop the Music, the complete recordings, Volume 1 to 1970 to 1992. What's going to be on Volume 2, I wonder? But I'm bound to get that. I love Trapeze. They've recently, haven't they, had those 3 disc sets. So what have they done here? Don't know yet. There'll be some live stuff, no doubt, and all the albums, but that looks good. Barclay James Harvest, once again, expanded edition. Esoteric do such a fantastic job on these sets, and Barclay James Harvest, and once again, is an absolute classic. Steppenwolf, The Epic Years, 1974 to 1979. It's a dead cert for me, because I did a review of that previous box set, going through the late 60s and early 70s, so this is just a must. Heavy Metal Kids, 1974 to 1976, the albums. Yep, I shall be there. Jade Warrior, Eclipse and Right Element. Yep, I love them, so that'll be also in my list. We also have Girls' School, The School Report, 1978 to 2008, 5 CD box set due in from HNE. Nick Turner, who sadly passed away recently, Space Ritual, 1994, 2 CD and 1 DVD set. Silverhead, More Than Your Mouth Can Hold, who I'm doing a massive feature and unboxing video on that very, very soon. What else? Anthony Phillips and Georgia Harate, Wildlife Remastered and Expanded Edition, 2 CD set from Esoteric. Mark Knopfler, the studio albums 2009 to 2018. I'm going to go with that as well, because I recently bought the volume 1 and I really enjoyed it. I've got some of the ones on this set, forthcoming set, but I'm probably still going to go with that. Rupert Hines, Surface Tension, Studio Works, 1981 to 1983, 3 CD set from Esoteric. Miller Anderson, Bright City, remastered and expanded, again Esoteric. You see, you know with Esoteric, you're going to get a booklet, and if the album was originally released on a gatefold, they will have replicated that in the box. Part of Cherry Red, but my current favourite reissue label, without a doubt. And what else have we got? Stephen Wilson is presenting Intrigue, Progressive Sounds of the UK Alternative Music Scene from 1979 to 1989, 4 CD set. That looks interesting. And finally, Blackmore's Night, Shadow of the Moon, the 25th anniversary CD and DVD set on Ear Music. I remember buying that, and I would say I've got all of Blackmore's Night stuff. Some of them I like more than others, but there is no escaping that the first one has a lot of magic sprinkled on it. You know, Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull and his flute solo, Ocean Gypsy, which a lot of people didn't realise was by Renaissance originally, and you know, it started them off. And at the time, I used to think, well, you know, Deep Purple are stuck playing all these older songs. They're trapped. It's not the case now, is it? Because they've made a fantastic body of work since he left. But Blackmore kind of freed himself from all of that and started off on a new train of thought. And so that looks interesting. You know, it's been remastered. I think there's a couple of extra mixes, remixed, and a DVD. So that'll be interesting as well, really. So that brings this week's Chart Watch to a close. So thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for subscribing. Please do. If you haven't, tell the world, tell your friends, tell your mom. And remember, music is the healer, it is the doctor. And thank you to all my patrons and supporters and everyone who's coming on board, especially Yogi, Clive, Chris and Andy. And I shall see you on my next video.